The movie begins at Harrison High School in Southern California, where students return after spring break. We're introduced to the school president and senior year student Zach Seiler, who is popular among girls and boys. Here, he meets with his friends Dean and Preston and talks about having only 8 weeks left until their graduation. Soon afterwards, Zach's girlfriend Taylor also arrives at the school. However, her attitude towards him has changed as she refuses to embrace him. It turns out that during her vacation trip to Florida, Taylor cheated on Zach with a reality TV star, Brock Hudson. On top of that, she also got a tattoo to mark her new relationship with Brock. On the other end of the school, art student Lainey Boggs is attending her painting class. Apart from being an art student, Lainey is also passionate about humanitarian and environmental causes. These subjects are reflected in her paintings as well. But her teacher asks Lainey to find herself in her creations. Even Lainey's classmates are mean towards her and continuously make fun of her work. As the students pack their bags for the day, the school DJ announces Zach and Taylor's breakup over the radio. Just then, Brock arrives at the school and is immediately swarmed by a bunch of girls. Then, he and Taylor begin to make out right before everyone. Enraged, Zach claims that Taylor is replaceable with any girl in the school. But Dean disagrees and challenges him to turn any random girl into the prom queen in 6 weeks. Zach, who has a point to prove, accepts the challenge and asks his friend to pick any girl for him. After scanning the entire school, Dean chooses Lainey Boggs, the art student with a reputation for being inaccessible and scary. Confident in his charming nature, Zach immediately approaches her and tries to introduce himself. However, she flatly ignores his advances and leaves with her younger brother. Back at home, Zach's sister Melissa advises him to learn more about Lainey if he wants to win her over. Meanwhile, their dad quizzes Zach about college applications, particularly Dartmouth. He's worried that Zach hasn't received any invitation letters from reputable colleges yet, even though graduation's not far off. To give Zach a leg up, Dad offers to call a friend from the Dartmouth alumni group. But Zach holds him back and tells him to wait a week before making the call. After a while, he heads to his room and pulls out a hidden stash of acceptance letters, including one from Dartmouth. It is evident that he wants to surprise his dad. Elsewhere, Taylor is shopping with her besties, Katie and Chandler, but her attention seems miles away from the dresses. Just 2 weeks ago, they were plotting her epic prom queen acceptance speech, but now Brock has taken over her world. Chandler warns Taylor not to alienate people as the voting for prom queen will soon begin. In response, Taylor says she can win the title even if she's dressed in cheap clothes and dismisses any talk of her being dethroned. A few days later, Zach tracks down Lainey at her part-time job at a restaurant. Eager to chat, he barges in but finds her busy with a customer. Annoyed, she gives him 1 minute to explain why he's been stalking her. Zach makes up a story about being blown away by her art and wanting to dive into the artistic world with her. Hearing this, a reluctant Lainey invites him to her upcoming performance at a local art club. Later that night, Zach attends Lainey's live performance and finds himself genuinely interested in the act. Meanwhile, Lainey, who wants him to leave, asks the director to invite him on the stage for an impromptu performance. A clueless Zach then hops onto the stage and makes up a routine using his hacky sack ball. Using his soccer juggling skills, he gets a rousing applause from the audience. Outside the club, Lainey compliments Zach on his innovative performance. In response, he tries to charm her by complimenting her eyes, but she takes it as an insult and angrily leaves. The next day, Zach arrives at Lainey's house and starts talking to her father about his business of cleaning pool drains. Unhappy with his presence, Lainey comes out and tells him not to stalk her everywhere. Zach requests her to go to the beach with him, but she immediately refuses. Undeterred, Zach says that if she won't hang out with him, he will linger around her home all day long, playing video games with her brother. Seeing no other option, Lainey agrees to go to the beach. At the beach, Zach encourages her to stop worrying about the environment for once and enjoy herself. But their conversation is interrupted by Zach's high school friends, who also arrive at the beach. Preston introduces himself and the other people in the group to Lainey, and they end up having a fun time together. Later, while heading back home, Preston invites everyone to his house for a party the following evening. This makes everyone excited, and they immediately say yes. However, Lainey refuses, claiming she has a lot of work to do. The following afternoon, Zach arrives at her house once again. He has brought along his sister Mackenzie, who helps Lainey with her new hair, dress, and makeup. A few hours later, she unveils the new version of Lainey, who looks completely unrecognizable. Awestruck with her beauty, Zach takes her to Preston's party. At the party, the dolled-up Lainey turns several heads, including Katie, who takes her away from Zach to introduce her to new people. Dean, who's also present at the party, asks Zach if there's anything romantic between him and Lainey. Zach denies it and says that he's with her just to win the bet. A few moments later, Lainey meets one of her art classmates, Misty, in the bathroom. Misty is completely wasted and starts to boast about getting a scholarship to her first-choice art school. She then taunts Lainey for not being on her level. This enrages our girl, and she decides to take revenge. She locks the bathroom door and paints Misty's face into a clown, ridiculing her in front of everyone. The party downstairs is in full swing, but things are about to take a turn for the worse. Brock, already hammered, throws himself onto the dance floor, his moves getting more and more outlandish with each passing second. When Taylor fails to intervene, she retreats to the sidelines, completely embarrassed at her new boyfriend's weird behavior. Unfortunately, Lainey arrives downstairs at the same time, and Taylor immediately corners her. She berates Lainey publicly and drenches her dress with a glass of wine. Humiliated and hurt, Lainey runs away from the party, but Zach follows her. He catches up to her outside and tries to offer comfort, reminding her that the night wasn't all bad. The following day at school, random students start to congratulate Lainey, but she has no idea why. Suddenly, the school DJ announces that Lainey Boggs has been nominated for the prom queen along with Taylor Vaughn. This leaves everyone in shock, but nonetheless, they congratulate the two. Meanwhile, we see Taylor crying in front of the school. Turns out Brock broke up with her after the party last night. Later, Zach struggles to concentrate on his soccer practice, missing an easy shot on the open goal. In the changing room, Dean claims that it's because Zach isn't getting any romance these days. He then says that he would like to make love with Lainey. Hearing this, Zach becomes enraged and a fight breaks out between the two. Later that night, Zach finds Lainey in her basement. She's drawing a beautiful painting for her mother for her art school final. He gently asks her about her mom and learns that she died due to leukemia. Touched by her pain, Zach urges Lainey not to shut the world out and try to share her burdens. He then opens up about his dad's pressure to follow his Dartmouth dreams, feeling like a pawn in his unfulfilled ambitions. In the shared vulnerability, Zach leans in, ready to kiss Lainey, but she jokingly asks if he's doing all this just to get her vote for the prom king. Guilty about the whole bet thing, he mumbles an excuse and leaves without saying anything. Meanwhile, at school, students are divided between voting for Taylor and Lainey for the prom queen title. In the canteen, Lainey wonders if Zach didn't kiss her because she's ugly. As she's lost in her own world, two students are bullying her brother Simon. One of them forcibly shows him explicit photos of women, while the other puts pubic hairs on his pizza. But before they can give that pizza to Simon, Zach intervenes and forces the two guys to eat it. After school, Dean swoops into the restaurant that Lainey works in and asks her to go to the prom with her. As expected, she refuses the proposal, but he starts to manipulate her. He lies, saying that Zach still has feelings for Taylor. This is why he hasn't asked Lainey to be his prom date yet. Dean then asks her to think about his proposal before walking away. In the next scene, we see Zach directing the school decorations for the fast-approaching prom night. Suddenly, he's interrupted by Taylor, who asks him to go to the event with her. When Zach replies that he's thinking about going with Lainey, she reveals that the art student is already taken. Turns out Lainey accepted Dean's proposal, and they're going to the prom together. Enraged, Zach confronts his friend about the betrayal, but Dean argues back, exposing that Zach only wants to go to the prom with her because of a silly bet. Unfortunately, Lainey overhears everything, leaving her devastated. Later, she locks herself in her basement and starts painting a portrait of herself as a clown. Zach continuously tries to contact her, but she doesn't answer. A little while later, Lainey's father sneaks into the basement and has a heart-to-heart conversation with her. He admits the fact that Lainey has stepped up to take care of the family after her mother's death, while he has emotionally switched off for years. But now he wants her to have a little fun in her life like any other teenager. Finally, he reveals that a young, handsome man is waiting for her upstairs. It is none other than Dean, who has come to take her. Lainey is a bit skeptical, but he eventually convinces her to come to prom with him. Elsewhere at the party, Zach is looking for Lainey, hoping to clear the misunderstanding between them. However, he's interrupted by Taylor, who is now obsessed with him after her recent breakup. She forces him to dance with her while we see Lainey dancing with Dean. Throughout the dance, Zach makes several attempts to approach Lainey, but fails every time. As the dance continues downstairs, Mackenzie meets up with Lainey's friend, Jesse, who's sitting alone at a table. We see the two slowly bond over similar music tastes. When the dance is over, Dean excuses himself for a while. Almost immediately, Lainey is approached by her art teacher, who mentions that she loved the portrait of her mother and that she sent applications to prestigious colleges in the country on her behalf. This makes our girl really happy, and she thanks her teacher. But just then, she notices Taylor hugging Zach, which makes her upset again. Meanwhile, in the washroom, Dean boasts of his plan to seduce Lainey that night. He claims that he is super close to getting laid with her, and that he's even booked a hotel room for the occasion. However, none of his friends believe him, not even Preston. After everyone leaves the washroom, it's revealed that Lainey's friend Jesse has overheard everything. He rushes out to meet up with Mackenzie and explains everything to her. Down in the dance floor, the principal gets ready to announce the prom king and prom queen. Just as everyone expected, Zach is crowned the prom king for the night. However, to everyone's surprise, Taylor is crowned as prom queen, narrowly beating Lainey with a few votes. Moments later, Jesse and Mackenzie arrive downstairs to warn Zach, who has already taken the stage with Taylor. After learning about Dean's plan, he rushes after Lainey, but finds out she's already left with Dean. Panicked, Zach hops in his car and immediately drives away from there. Along the way, he calls several hotels in the area to know exactly where Dean is taking his love. Meanwhile, we see Lainey arriving at her home with a disappointed look on her face. She's greeted by her father and her brother, who are sitting on the couch. But soon, the camera pans out to reveal Zach standing there waiting for her. He starts revealing Dean's plan, but Lainey stops him and explains that she figured that out herself. After that, he confesses his true feelings and apologizes for the stupid challenge that he took part in. As they talk to each other, they slowly start dancing and kissing by the pool. Lainey then asks Zach about the challenge, and he says that he will honor the terms of defeat. However, it will only be revealed on graduation day. It's now the day of the graduation ceremony, and everyone is waiting for their names to be announced. Finally, the teacher calls out Zach, but instead of arriving in a tip-top getup, he has come naked. This is his punishment for losing his bet.